in a row in 2022 and 23. And then the amazing Ciara, who runs a yard with her mother and her partner Lee, a showing yard in North County Dublin, with a range of shapes and sizes from Connemara's to Hunters to Cubs. Her proudest achievement is qualifying for Hoys and being the champion mare in Dublin. And this year she, and wait till you see him, lads, has Bart. Bart is my heart forevermore. He is just beautiful, to be fair. So Zoe, I would like to start with you. Don't look at me like that, Zoe. So you wear a lot of hats in Henry's. You travel the country. You have a huge range of expertise in all horses. What do you think your biggest learning curve has been in all of your travels?
Or learning to understand the horses' different needs when you're at home and when you're away.
Yeah.
So I find a lot of the time when you take the horses away, they might not eat, and people start losing the plot. Who's not eating is not eating. You know, Honeysuckle never ate a nut in Cheltenham. Don't worry about it.
Never stopped her all the same.
Just learning to adapt to routine and understand each individual horse, and just be kind of a bit more keeping it simple when you're away with them. Do you know, everyone would be there like, oh, we need to make him eat. He's not going to eat. He's not hungry. Just leave him alone.
Nice and settled.
So just learning to adapt a routine and with the horses and be a bit more relaxed about it. Do you know, everyone standing outside Honeysuckle stable looking at her. She's still not going to eat it. She just doesn't want it. And I think the first time she won the champion hurdle, I got up every hour in the night to give her half a scoop of feed because she was going from her water pot to her feed pot, and turning her feed to mash and then turning her nose up at it. And I stupidly got up every hour in the night and was giving her half a scoop of feed, like as though it made a difference. The following year, I learned to relax. She didn't eat anything and she still won the champion hurdle. So
I think she was safe enough.
There was only one fool there and it was me.
But with a heart of gold, though, Zoe, in fairness. Kate, you grew up in a family absolutely surrounded by horses. As you've said, you've been riding since you were 4 or 5? Would you consider yourself a role model to the future generations coming up?
It's not that I wouldn't. I think sometimes I'd underestimate myself a little bit and kind of see myself as a part of the generation that comes up. But look, hindsight is a great thing. I'd like to see myself as a role model, and I'd like to think I've really put myself out there for the younger generation coming up to think, well, not that I'm saying dip forward and back, but do you know, I dipped out of the show jumping, I dipped into the racing. Look, unfortunately, injury kind of put me backwards that way, but no matter where I went, be it racing, show jumping, a little bit of hunting here and there, a little bit of eventing, I always had kind of family support behind me. And now that I've dipped back into the show jumping, I'm competing at a little bit of a lower level and producing young horses, but it's not to say that I can't get back to where I was before. And I'd like to think that the younger generation, instead of seeing European medals and that I switched to racing and thinking, oh my God, it's Kate Derwin, they kind of think, it's possible to dip in and out, enjoy life on the way up, and see me for me and kind of see me for the production horses instead of the highs.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I'm not sure that makes sense.
It does make sense. It definitely makes sense. And I think it's very important. Like you speak a lot about the highs and the lows, and you're very open and honest in what has happened and what has gone before. And I think that honesty is something that has to be championed, and we have to see.
Yeah, I think in every sport, there's not much point in just championing the highs, because especially in the equestrian sport, by God, there's nothing that's going to ground you like a horse, because you win a gold medal and then the next day you're sitting in the water jump, you know. So, but no, definitely, I think to express your highs as well as your lows, I think it's a good trait to have.
Definitely, I definitely agree. Aoife, how do you feel as the youngest member up here, surrounded by all these amazing people and listening to stories? And you have written some hugely impactful and amazing, amazing stories. How do you feel being up here surrounded by the women?
Well, it's very scary.
scary, I promise.
No, it's a lot to live up to, kind of. But I would like to think that I'm the next kind of person coming behind them.
Yeah.
That maybe I could, I show jump as well. I'd love, I grew up watching Kate.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to, live up to that kind of, or try to anyway.
And out of curiosity, if you could ask the ladies the question and want to know one piece of information from them all, what would it be?
Suppose, how do you deal with the bad days? Like when you're waiting for the good days to come, how do you get through it, kind of?
If you have a video of a good day, watch it back.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Where to start with, Ciara? You've kind of done it all, been everywhere. Not debatable in the slightest. What would you consider, like you have, some might call you the Queen of Dublin. You've done very, very well in Dublin. You've qualified for Hoys. You have some amazing young stock coming up. What would you consider your biggest achievement to date?
I've been very, very lucky. I've worked for some fabulous people. I was given an amazing opportunity by Jane Ross when I worked for her in the UK. I was only there a couple of months, and I rode CSF Comer Paradise to be reserve champion riding horse at Hoys behind Casino, who had won the small riding horses 4 or 5 times and never been champion. And that year she was champion. So that was massive. But I bought a Connemara pony off Nicola Perrin when I was over there. And Lee, who I met a couple of weeks later, tried to sell it to me as well. And I suppose when he arrived, I didn't have any high hopes for him. And my plan was to keep him at Jane's. And my circumstances changed, and I brought him home, and I came home. And I didn't really know where to go from there. Mm-hmm. So I set a goal that year. He was only a 4-year-old, to go to the Hoys qualifier in Barnerdown at the IPS Summer Championship show. And I said, I'll do that, and we'll see how we go. And he was pulled top. And, of course, he was a 4-year-old. He had a wrong leg. So the following year, again, that was my goal. He qualified for Dublin. He was only 5. But we had, as a team, put so much time and effort into him. And I think it was more about defying the odds and proving a point to everyone that, okay, I wasn't in the UK anymore and I wasn't behind the people and the professionals, but I was doing it on my own. Mm-hmm. So when he qualified for Hoys, that was massive, and it was even more special to have Mum there and my Irish community and my Irish family. And when I was away, Mum had bought a 5-year-old mare, again off Nicola Perrin. She didn't have a horse at home, and she missed going out to the shows and seeing everyone, so she bought a horse at home. And Nikki won Dublin Honour as a 4-year-old, and then the plan was for me to have her as a side saddle horse as a 5-year-old. So we put her in the weights class in Dublin anyway, and we went back, and I had absolutely no expectation to win that whatsoever. I just wanted to go and do the side saddle. And we, again, just so much time and effort, and like that, there was more bad days than good days with her in the beginning. It was getting to know her. The hunter classes, there's no ages, so I was 24, everyone else is doing it full. I work 3 jobs, everyone else was doing it full time, and she won. And we went into the main ring, and I had massive imposter syndrome. I was like, God, what am I doing here? And she was novice. She was only a 5-year-old horse, again, producing her from the start. And she was champion in Dublin. So definitely qualifying Seb, because that was, to me, giving me the belief that I could actually do it on my own and stand on my own 2 feet. And going champion with Mom's Mare in Dublin, because that was a very long, hard road.
I love it. You all come from different sides of the equestrian eras, and you all have amazing family backing, and you have people behind you. But what would you think are the one challenges that you probably all face within the industry? Start with you, Zoe, because you're looking at me.
Challenges in the industry, I suppose. A lot of people, are striving to do their best in the equine industry. So to try and to be constantly competitive on a daily basis, and deliver a standard that's consistent all the time, and accept the days that you're gonna make mistakes, learn from them, move on from them. I take making mistakes very personally, and don't cope with it very well at all. So I suppose just learning to learn from them, forget them, move on, build from it, and just have a consistent standard in your work and your ethic and your attitude to what you're doing. Even on the bad days in racing, you're going to be losing a lot more than you're going to be winning. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
And not taking it to heart, and just not carrying a bad day into the next day. Just go again.
Would you agree, Kit? What challenges? What was the biggest challenge you think you faced?
God, I think horses in general are just a challenge. I just say they're like having kids. I don't know what that's like, by the way. Look, I think there's a lot of challenges in the horse world. You're going to have good days and bad days. You're going to have horses injured, not injured. You're going to knock jumps. It's going to be what it is. I think a challenge, and it's something I can kind of stand for firsthand. When I went racing and then I came back to the show jumping, I think it's very, very hard to find someone to stand on par with you when you're at the lower level of the sport.
Okay.
Not in all the wrong ways. What I mean by that is, like I could easily hop on the truck there with Frano and go training, but Frano's going to be training all day and then I'm going to be training in the night time because I'm riding the baby ones. And I think like there's very few people that have stood with me, not stood with me, but it's just since I came back from racing, like Dad there, he'd stand with me for 2 hours and witness me making a hames of a 4-year-old. But I think a lot of people nowadays, they either want to work with the top horses or not at all, from a training perspective, more so than a rider perspective. And
how do you think we can change that mindset? What can we do as a media company to help to change that?
I think in general, it's more of a personal mindset from the people. I think it's great for riders to, I'm kind of basing off at home because I've been out of the circle for a while, but I see Frano there, he's 6 or 7 Grand Prix horses, but he's 3 or 4 nice 4 and 5-year-olds as well. And I think that keeps a rider very grounded. Yes, he mightn't compete them at a show, but they're there at home and they're there to go from his Grand Prix horses doing their half pass and shoulder in and shoulder out to doing his best not to get booked off.
Heike has explained all these terms to me, so I know exactly what I'm talking about now, Heike. Have a
but yeah, I think a youngster keeps them very much grounded.
Okay. And Aoife, as a younger generation, what challenges do you see within the industry at the moment?
I definitely think, like me myself, since I've been jumping since I was 7 or 8, I've always produced my own ponies. So I've always kind of been trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. But it's tough with the young ponies, for a year or two, you'll have bad days every day. And it's tough to see friends or like sisters or whatever jumping the bigger heights with the better ponies that have been there and done that. And it's tough to keep the motivation going because you just find yourself disappointed a lot. But then at the end of it, then you have so much more experience and it's so satisfying knowing that you've made your own pony. But I think just that middle bit is so tough. But there's a lot more. Like I know that they've brought in the young pony classes now for 12-2s and 13-2s for Dublin, whereas I never had that when I was in the ponies. And I think it's such a motivator for young people to bring up their own ponies, and it keeps people in the sport, which is so, so important.
Definitely. And from a showing perspective, Ciara, what do you think the biggest challenges are?
Our biggest challenge currently is finding the horses.
Okay.
Mum and I were only talking about this at dinner last night. We, again, because we're Ireland, we don't have the top level, so everybody grows up producing their own ponies and their own animals, and that's how you learn. But we have lost our kind of thoroughbred stallions, our traditional thoroughbred stallions, our TIH horses, and I suppose the marketing and the way things have gone, the commercial side of it has gone to eventing and show jumping. So even we were saying the 2 and 3-year-old classes in Dublin, they've gone from to make a lightweight hunter, to make a heavyweight hunter, it's now to make a show jumping type or an event type.
Wow.
So they've changed from lightweights and heavyweights to sport horses.
Yeah.
So yeah, our challenge is finding the bone, finding an animal that's correct, and again, that hasn't got too much blood, that it has the brain to go and do our job. They have to stand like police horses and move like dressage horses. It's
What a
not an easy thing to find.
If you find one, let me know. And I have one more question for you all, ladies. In terms of empowering change within the equine industry, what innovative approaches would you suggest to enhance inclusivity and support groups?
I'm very blessed because I work in racing, so I feel like racing is actually ahead in all the equestrian spheres in those kind of things. Myself and Kate were talking outside this morning about the supports available in the racing industry, and so I personally feel very fortunate to be
very different
in the position, but I do look at the other areas, dressage, show jumping, eventing, showing. They don't have the supports and things that we have in place, so maybe racing for once is actually forward in changes that need to be made, and some of the other areas could follow, because I don't feel like that we lack support. I think there's support there. Maybe it's a time where the support has only just become available, and maybe people aren't quite sure yet how to utilise it, but it is there. And HRI supported me through college. So did my boss, Henry de Bromhead. I think in years gone by that maybe wouldn't have happened. But I was very fortunate. I got financial support from HRI. I got support from Henry. I was able to juggle it all around. So I think some of the other areas of equestrian sports could look at racing and what they have in place and strive for a bit of improvement for other people.
Yeah. And would you agree, Kate, coming from both sides?
Yeah, I'll second Zoe on that, definitely. Not that I think the show jumping world is a support in itself, but much like when I got injured racing, the Injured Jockeys Fund was very, very good to me. Dr. Jennifer Pugh was very, very good to me.
Yeah.
I always had a place to turn, be it I was in pain or I needed physiotherapy. And like some jockeys gone before, if I felt that I was down in the dumps, there was always someone to turn to and someone to help. And I feel like you would probably agree with me as well. I'd say that just the jockeys, the owners, the supporters, they all support the Injured Jockeys Fund, and in return the Injured Jockeys Fund supports the jockeys. And I think especially with how big the show jumping world is nowadays, like Barberstown tomorrow, I think there's 86-year-olds entered. Do you know, that's a lot of horses in one class. If you think if, God, for every round one of those 6-year-olds jump, you put €1 into a pot, you'd support a lot of people after 5 or 6 shows, you know. And I, just like Zoe said, I think that if the show jumping, the showing world, anyone in the equestrian world followed that side of the racing world, I think there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Aoife, what would you think?
I definitely agree with the two girls. There's not so much support just across the board, I think, in show jumping. I think things like group training sessions, not just for the elite level young riders, but just across the board, because I think there is definitely a shortage. I'm from Tipperary, and I could probably count on one hand how many trainers I could go to train. I come up to Kildare to train, but it's not a sustainable thing, really, to come up every week. So it's kind of put on the back burner then, and you're trying to do stuff at home. I don't come from a horsey family, so it's me and my dad who's been learning as we've learned. So I think things like that need to come in too, to support the grassroots level of show jumping, the ones who aren't maybe going out jumping 140, 150 European teams, just people who are keeping it going at home too, keeping SGI running, you know, things like that.
Yeah. What do you think, Ciara?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Lee, in his past life, he's 24 or 25 and retired, as he calls it. Used to be a national hunt jockey. Well, not around me. Used to be a national hunt jockey, and he definitely had way more support in the UK and with the Injured Jockeys Fund, and even Oaksey, is it Oaksey House?
Yeah.
And just even the mental health stigma of racing, you know, it's a massive thing, and a lot more trainers have got behind it. He sadly lost one of his very close friends. And there's a lot more support in stable staff and in every aspect. And I suppose in showing we have a community, but we don't have a governing board. So we rely on our friends and our family and our members and stuff, and like that with the training. I train with Mark Ruddock, who's dressage, and I go to show jumping clinics to jump. We don't have the opportunities. Kind of every year the IPS get over English producers, and they do clinics, and they're great. But again, it's too early in the year, and people with school and kids and everything, it's difficult. Ponies aren't in and they're not fit. So maybe the IPS should probably do a little bit more on their training, which they have definitely done this year. But it's something that we can all improve on, is giving people more opportunities, especially with the trainers.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, ladies. It was a pleasure as always. We really appreciate you coming up and having the chats with us today, and we look forward to talking to you all again in the future. Thank you so much.